you realize there's nothing lacking, the world belongs to you, it will become inner reality. You will find that when you forgive someone else, you are forgiven, to quote Christ. And when you love, you yourself are loved, to quote St. Francis. And you will discover love is a frequency, to quote our guide Greek. What can we do? There is this lens. It is not allowing us to see reality as it didn't allow people throughout centuries to see reality as it is. So it doesn't allow us now. The first step, as Blandine mentioned, is establishing ourselves into this knowing that I don't know. It is not by chance that Socrates, the father of Western thinking, one of the most important fathers, this was his most important sentence. Because when we look with the feeling, I know, we look through a prism. We look through a lens. We look through a limitation. And once we face all these questions that science doesn't know, meaning of life, value of life, life after death, existence of God, what shall I do tomorrow? There's no scientific formula to tell you what you should do tomorrow. Once we understand that looking into all these questions, the first answer is, I don't know the meaning of life, existence of God, existence of my soul. From there, or who is thinking the thoughts in my head? Who is conscious? What's the nature of consciousness? No idea. The hard question of science. What's the nature of consciousness? And if we are established in this I don't know, then we can start to explore correctly. So this is step one. Now the second step is to move towards the, let's say, the inner laboratory. The inner laboratory, or the best device that we can get our hands on, is unbiased consciousness. So we internalize science. It sounds simple, but almost nobody's doing it. What science did in the 16th century, we do inside, hopefully from today. Or if you are tired today, rest today and start tomorrow. Yeah, we start to do that inside. We say, the heck with what I know, I don't care what I know. I don't care what I want to find inside. And I will look inside in an unbiased way. Instead of having newspapers that are paid by the government to praise the government, I'll have a newspaper, inner newspaper, that aspires towards objectivity, freedom of press inside. So we aim to look free from bias, free from preconceived ideas. And what do we look at? We look inside at our body, we look at our mind, we look at our sensations, and whatever we perceive inside, without bias, yeah, like they do in many Buddhist meditations, they do that. Observe your breath without interfering. Observe your body without interfering. Observe your anger without interfering. Whenever you observe like that, which is extremely rare, it's not something that people normally do. Whenever we look in this way, we will bring a little piece of truth to our puzzle. A little piece of truth will come there. And whenever we look not in this way, we have a little bit of garbage in our system, a little bit of bias understanding in our system. Process of observation, to do it well, start with the body, start with your thoughts, start with your emotions. You see, normally, when we perceive our emotion, we look at it in a biased way. We perceive that we are angry, and we have our whole story of distortion around anger. Completely non-scientific. And because we are completely non-scientific about ourselves, we live in an inner fog We are not confident, we are not clear, and we are in a mess, like humanity was in a mess until the 16th century, from the physical perspective. We are copying exactly the same mess inside when we look at our anger and in our sadness through agitation. But when we start to look anger, let me look without interfering, which requires a voluntary act. People don't just do it. Where is the anger in the body? How does it feel? How does it vibrate? We start to have the direct experience of anger, and you see that anger vibrates. Anger has energy. Without a doubt you will see it, and you will see it not once, not twice, 100 times. Hunger has a vibration, anger has a vibration. When something is itchy, it vibrates. When something is pleasant, it vibrates. When something is orgasmic, it vibrates. And these vibrations, they can be placed in front of consciousness directly. And when they are placed in front of consciousness directly, we start to receive inner objectivity. And then naturally, from the bodily sensations, from the thoughts and emotions, we will find our life force, our energy, prana or chi or ki. And then from there, which would be the obvious first step, we can take clues in our process of exploration, taking clues from whatever tradition. Whether you go from the chakras of India, from the meridians and datiens of the Chinese tradition, or you go on the footsteps of Kabbalah, Christianity, or whatever shamanic tradition, most of the old ancient traditions that survived have a lot of truth there. Meaning what? They were great masters that observed themselves scientifically. This is why they would go in caves and monasteries and hermitage, so that they can be quiet and look. And when they looked and sharpened their consciousness enough, they came out. Chakras, meridians, sephirot, whatever the reality there. And then going through those systems, but not getting dogmatized into now chakras or Christianity. Looking at these systems as the master said, dig here. You dig, and what you find, if you find the chakra, there's a chakra. You didn't find the chakra after 6 months or after 2 years, a few hours of exploration, maybe go to another system. But what people discover, and what people discover here in our school for many decades by now, and for thousands of years in India, if you meditate on the chakras an hour a day, a few weeks, maybe you don't feel anything in the beginning, but after a few weeks you feel. And after a few months you feel clearly, and then after a few years it becomes a very objective reality. And I think most of you that are present now live in the lecture, you feel that. And then once you have the inner reality established, you start to play with it with the social and physical world. If you focus on the heart chakra and you do 2 hours on the heart chakra meditation and yoga in the morning, do you have more love in your heart? And then it becomes very objectified, not just as an experience, but also as an interaction. And it's very important for all the spiritual experiences to be objectified in an interactive manner. We get the experience, we get the subtle experience, we objectify the subtle experience. And from there, we can dive deeper. The deeper questions of life. Life after death. Am I the body? What has meaning in life? Is there God? Once we are established, let's say, in the second gate, we entered the subtle world objectively, systematically. Yeah, please not sporadically like New Age. Now I dream today, I dream of a unicorn. Tomorrow I dream of a twin flame. And on Tuesday I think I'm a butterfly. But systematically and objectify with the world. From there we can dive and find the truth for these deeper questions. And if you pose the question, what is the meaning of my life? What has value in this world? And you keep your consciousness quiet, The laboratory in this stage needs a very silent mind. Once the mind is very quiet and you put the question, what's the meaning of my life? Something will rise from your heart. You repeat it one day and the other. And you ask, is there a God? And if you ask persistently and you have your antennas open and your energy is awake and you are vigilant and you are not trying to impose with your mind an answer, then real answers come. And they come and they repeat and they create a very profound transformation inside. What kind of transformation? Exactly the same transformation that science did outside. And if somebody from the 15th century would wake up today, he would think he's in an alien world. Everybody walking with a little television. What is that? That little smartphone. But that was made possible through accumulation of 500 years of trying to be physically objective. Now, go inside. We go inside and we take 5, 10, 20, 50 years of aiming sincerely to be objective inside. And such a revolution becomes inwardly possible. Christ walked on the water because he was objective. Buddha could live 49 days on 1 grain of rice because he was objective. This great yogi master who was put in a laboratory for 1 week without food or drink, without going to the toilet, he had inner objectivity. Swami Rama, who could stop his heart in laboratory conditions with the scientist Elmer Green, he could do that, and he had that tremendous power because he cultivated objectivity from the age of 4 in a cave in the Himalayas. You see, if we cultivate such objectivity, we transform fundamentally. And these will be the signs of success. How do you know you awaken objectivity and not enter some new age daydreaming? Because you awaken virtue. When you awaken virtue, and after this process of exploration, you are confident, you are calm, you are not judgmental to people, you are peaceful, you are fearless. Nobody can scare you. Nothing and nobody can scare you. You are kind and loving, full of mercy, humility. You admit your mistakes. You are full of vigor and vitality. You are clear and eloquent. If you have all these qualities, which you didn't have before, that means that the process of exploration was done correctly, because objectivity gives coherence, transformation. Truth gives a tremendous inner power and inner harmony. And then from virtue, we come to discover the reality of the scriptures, where other people who did not search for objectivity made a dogma and made crusades out of Christ, and all sorts of dead monasteries and dead societies, dogmatic societies from the great saints of yore. If you go and you look at these texts in the search of truth, you will find, as the Tao Te Ching says, that when you realize there's nothing lacking, the world belongs to you, it will become in a reality. You will find that when you forgive someone else, you are forgiven, to quote Christ. And when you love, you yourself are loved, to quote St. Francis. And you will discover love is a frequency, to quote our guide Greek. And you will discover that the root of all your suffering is ignorance, attachments, and selfish desires. And you will discover it not as a concept, but you will find yourself suffering. Now you suffer because you have a crisis with someone you love, and then you realize that in the essence of it there is an attachment to someone you love, and in the essence of it there is an ignorance Because you don't need to be attached. You are happiness itself. And as you see the structure, in objectivity the structure collapses and the suffering collapses and you become loving and open again. You see, these realities that the scriptures speak about, they are hints, they are clues. They are there to enforce you on the way. And if you explore into the reality of God and you discover, to quote Rumi, that when you give a seed or when you give one rose, you receive hundreds of rose gardens. And when you give one seed, you get a whole wilderness. And you discover that as an ecstatic reality inside, you know you're on the right track. And you awaken a spiritual certainty. People stand next to the water. Nobody's been to the water. Maybe it's hot, maybe it's cold, maybe it's this, maybe... Oh, one group says it's hot, one group says it's cold, one group says it's toxic, one group says it's healing, but nobody enters the water. Take off your clothes and jump in the water of your inner world. And then you don't care what people said. You know, water is just right. Perfect temperature, is healing, is amazing. You've been in the water. You are in the water. Let them shout that the water is bad or good. It doesn't matter. You become free from the imprisonment, from the pressing boot of society that is not pressing us only physically, but pressing our mind to think that there's something wrong with us if we follow spirituality. Absolutely not. But for that, we need to be active and we need to believe in ourselves that we can find. And not hesitate and objectify what we already feel. People feel the chakras, but do you or don't you? And when you do, what actual effect it has on your life? People are afraid to seek for the truth because maybe it's not what they think. Exactly, it will not be what you think. But once it's objectified, what you actually see will give you the gift of certainty. And if certainty is not yet there, the process of exploration needs to be put in greater objectivity. So this is our message, and I hope it can bring this state of spiritual certainty. And you can start to see yourself from the universal standards and to realize the essence, the reality of who you are, and to rest in that.
Hey guys, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content on spirituality, Tantra and more.
And if you want to sign up for our online classes or for our retreats, you can see our website on the description below.